Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome back to the Whiskey Cove. And on today's episode, we review two new releases from the Green River Distillery. There's the Kentucky Straight Bourbon and the Kentucky Straight Wheated Bourbon. You know the drill, run the video. All right then folks, let's get into today's video, shall we? And if you haven't already, go and check us out on the website, thewhiskeycove.square.site, where you can get some beautiful premium glassware engraved with the Whiskey Cove at rock bottom prices. With that being said, if you haven't already subscribed, you want to subscribe now, because we're doing a 5k subscriber giveaway that already has an Old Forester barrel strength single barrel in that giveaway, and we'll add more as we go along through the next few months here. With that being said, let's roll on and get on with this review. So we have two whiskeys. We have the Kentucky Bourbon and we have the Kentucky Wheated Bourbon, or the Straight Wheated Bourbon and the Straight Bourbon Whiskey. So these are two new releases from Green River. They come in like really cheap. They're like between $30 and $35. I think the Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey is a little bit cheaper. They're both sour mash and they're both out of the Green River Distillery, distilling company in Owensburg, Kentucky. So I believe, and I want to say this is right, that they were just acquired by Bardstown, which is another massive distillery down in Bardstown, Kentucky, which has made this huge, massive kind of, I guess you can't even call it a distillery or a whiskey company anymore. It's more like a portfolio at this point. However, I'm very excited to get into these whiskeys, and I hope they're very good because the price is phenomenal, and I really like the bottles as well. They're really well made. They're super unique. With that being said, let's stop talking. Let's get these whiskeys into the glasses here, and let's start with the bourbon whiskey. It has a really nice label on this. You kind of have similar on the both, exactly the same labels more or less on the both of them. This has a black front label, where this has a blue front label, and also has black on the back and black on the back there. It also has this really nice bronze outline as well, which I really like, and then this green tax strip over the top. How's the cork pop though? Now, I'm gonna have to twist it a little bit to break the tax stamp, so don't hate me. Oh, that was a little bit wet. Maybe we twisted it out a bit too much. Let's try that again. No, just a little bit of a soft cork pop there. It is a real cork, which is always nice to see. Classic real cork. Kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Russell's cork. Almost looks exactly identical. Maybe that's the same cork they use, but oh, that's a little better. Maybe it was just a little wet before. So that was that one, and then this is going to be the wheated whiskey. These cellophane wraps, not very good on that. Let's see how the cork pop is on this one. Also, a little better. Has a higher pitch one. So then let's get, I'm going to let these breathe for a little bit. I'll come back in about half hour, and then we'll pour them into glasses here. All right then folks, let's get these whiskey into these glasses. So this is the Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, and then this is the Kentucky Straight Wheated Bourbon. So just straight off the bat, what we'll do is we'll review the Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, and then we'll go into the wheated after that there as well, after we cleanse our palate here. So this is 45% ABV or 90 proof, non-chill filtered as well. This is the pride of Owensburg in Kentucky. On the back it says founded by John McCulloch in 1885 as Kentucky's 10th oldest distillery. Green River was celebrated for quality and became known as the whiskey without regrets before being lost to history after Prohibition. So Green River are known to be quite a big distillery for people to go and source whiskey from, and they seem to do a good job at that. So let's see how it stacks up today for their own stuff here. Let's go in for a nose. Let's look at the color here actually. For a 45% ABV whiskey, it's kind of what you expect. Kind of like a golden hay color there. She's a little thin in the glass, but there's definitely a little bit of lace in there, which is always nice to see. Maybe that might add to mouthfeel. I guess we'll have to wait and see there. So let's go in for a nose here. It's a very inviting nose straight off the bat. Some classic bourbon notes there. You get a little bit of cherry, almost leaning into like a cherry bubblegum. Some really nice sweet vanilla. And there's a nice bit of wood there as well. Classic bourbon notes. You get like the cherry notes, you get the vanilla, and you get the wood there. Is there any spice? I'm not really picking too much of a little spice there. Maybe a little sprinkling of some cinnamon. maybe a touch of powdered chocolate there as well, like you're really pulling hairs, and maybe some citrus orange as well. But it's actually a really nice nose and very inviting. Again, just a reminder, $30 to $35 bottle of whiskey we're dealing with here. No heat on the nose, which also maybe helps me nose it a little bit better. It's very easy to nose and very enjoyable. Let's go in for a taste here. Straight off the bat, there wasn't much spice on the nose, but it's definitely there right from the beginning on the palate, and it travels all the way through. Like a cracked black pepper and some of those bacon spices and a nice dried oak there as well. It also has a really nice butterscotch sweetness there, which does also last as long as the spice does there as well. I'm not really picking up any of that cherry anymore. It's kind of like more of a sweet and spicy whiskey. Let's go in for another taste here. So what I'm getting on the mouthfeel, it is a little thin on the mouthfeel, which yes, it's a 45% ABV whiskey, but it just seems to be missing something. It has some really nice notes, but even for a 45% whiskey like Buffalo Trace or Elijah Craig, it's just the middle palate right there, where all the fireworks are supposed to happen. It just completely misses out there for whatever reason. You get big spice up front, you get really nice sweetness that does travel through, but nothing else really happens in that middle palate there as well. And you do definitely get a thin note. You get a lot of like Kentucky burn, a little bit of ethanol burn on the tongue there as well, and a little bit going down, but there's just nothing in that middle palate that's really getting me excited. I was hoping for a little bit better after nosing it for so long. If you like something that's spicy and sweet, not too much else going there, then that's where you're gonna get. The finish is just basically all spice and a little bit of burn, but you're not really getting too much of that wood notes there on the back end as well. But I guess, like I said, $30, $35, you need to kind of understand where this whiskey is coming from. So let's reset the palate, and then we'll go into the wheated bourbon. All right then, folks, let's go into the Green River Kentucky Straight Wheated Bourbon here. Just looking at the labels, they basically look exactly the same. It doesn't say anything. Well, actually, it does say a little bit different on the bottom paragraph. It says, once again, Green River whiskey is crafted at its original home. This wheated bourbon showcases a classic Kentucky profile with a smooth, balanced taste. Coming in at 45% ABV and 90 proof, this is again sour mash bourbon. So with that being said, let's have a look at it in the glass. It looks a little lighter, which is understandable for a wheated bourbon. It does look a little thinner in the glass than its sister here as well. Not much lace in there at all as I roll it. Let's go in for a nose here. And out of the two, I was most excited for this because I do like wheated bourbons. So let's see how she stacks up. So it definitely has a wheated note to it. If you're someone who drinks, what does this remind me of? It reminds me of the Bernheim 7. So if you've ever had the Bernheim 7 wheated whiskey, kind of nose is very similar to that. You get this wheated cereal note in there. And kind of has some more similarities maybe as the Bernheim barrel proof there as well, because it definitely has a little bit of heat and pepper off the nose. But almost noses like it has this little metallic-y note there as well. I don't know, for all you craft beer drinkers out there, if you've ever had like a craft beer crowler or something in a can and you taste it, it has this metallic-y note. It's kind of similar to what I'm taking off the nose here. But yeah, it kind of smells a little bit like a bottle of wheat bran there as well too. Out of the two so far, I prefer the nose here. I think this is just a little bit flat, and some of the notes that I'm picking up aren't exactly the most enjoyable notes. Wheat bran, tin, metal. So if you like this whole thing, then maybe the wheated bourbon might be for you. With that being said, let's go in for a taste here. This is definitely the spicier out of the two. This doesn't share the same amount of sweetness that this has. This is definitely more of a drier, spicier whiskey with some of those wheatier notes. You don't really get any oak or any wood there. And just as I'm saying that, right on the back end, I'm getting like a candy cane. Not a candy cane, because candy cane I guess is like peppermint, right? But like I guess like a rock sugar note there as well. So like I guess like a white cane sugar note, or like a simple syrup note right on the back end, hugging my palate there. But apart from that, there's not much sugar at all throughout this. You're getting more of that like wheated bran, kind of like, I guess the best way I can describe it is if you've got like a hand of wheated bran and you rubbed it into, you made it into a dust, and then put that dust into like a bourbon. Kind of has some of that like dusty wheated bran note. It's spicy all the way through. It has probably more of a body than this one did. However, it's just more of like a spice body, I guess, through this one, which you can get from wheated bourbons. Let's go in for another taste here. It kind of reminds me of maybe something that Jim Beam would put out, because Jim Beam make a lot of spicy stuff there as well. But it does have some sharper notes there as well, just as I'm drinking it again and we're rolling into the mid palate. I do get like an ethanol-y kind of sharp and spiky note. It doesn't drink as hot as this one, but it's just more spicy. What type of spice is that? Then I would definitely say pepper, like a peppercorn. Put too much pepper on your food and you have like that little bit of spice, like horseradish kind of level of spice in your nose, in your mouth. Then this is definitely that type of spice on your palate, if you can kind of imagine that there. So let's talk about these two whiskeys here. So again, we need to remind ourselves, if you haven't already been reminded enough today, that I believe this was like $30 and this was about $33. So we're talking just one step above budget, I guess, right? Or maybe in the realms of Eagle Rare Russell's Reserve 10 is probably where we're thinking with these. So the first one had some really nice sweet notes. It had a little bit of spice there as well and some oak, but that mid body just fell away and it became a little thin, no mouthfeel whatsoever. Value for money, I do like the bottle, but value for money, I'm gonna give it a C. I think just with having tried other whiskeys around the same dollar mark, I just feel like there's other stuff I would definitely reach for. What would I choose instead of this? Like a Wild Turkey 101, I think probably beats this. And you're talking about $20 or early times bottles in Bond, I will probably reach for over this. This was just okay, so C, value for money, rating out of 100. On my rating scale, 0 to 100, and I do stick to that scale really well. Like if you get to the 90s, you need to be a phenomenal whiskey, and average is 50, so that's kind of where the scale is at. And I'm probably going to give this 40 straight. I think this is, it's just a little bit below average. What is average? It's really difficult for me to say. I think maybe an Elijah Craig on my palate, a small batch, is probably 50 out of 100, and this isn't as good as that. It's not bad juice, don't get me wrong, and it can make a good gift for someone who doesn't really drink bourbon too much, just because how nice the bottle is. So I think 40 out of 100 is where this is going to be at. So with that being said, let's move on to the wheated bourbon here. So this is just a bit of a spice bomb. It had some spiky notes. The nose kind of had some funky metallic. The wheat just kind of consumed it. It wasn't well rounded out. I was a little disappointed more so with this one, because this is one I was looking forward to the most. With that being said, value for money. This is a wheated bourbon. What would I have over this? I probably would prefer the Bernheim 7-year over this. I would also prefer just regular Maker's Mark over this, Maker's 46 over this, Weller Special Reserve over this. Weller Special Reserve I would probably say is more average, but this is definitely below average as well. And I think this is worse than this one. Value for money, I'm going to give this a C again, just because it's a wheated bourbon. It's pretty cheap. There's not much out there. Makes a good gift, good bottle. Look, nice design as well. So C, I think is fair. Value for money is a C. So then the score out of 100, 37, I think. Like I said, it's worse than that one. No, actually not 37, 35. It's worse than this one, but I think it's worse enough that it deserves at least 5 points less. So 35 out of 100, 40 out of 100, and a little bit disappointed, if I'm honest. But maybe I was just expecting a little bit too much from these offerings. If you've tried these whiskeys, please let me know down below how they drank for you. If you did anything special with them to make them a little bit better. However, they just missed the mark today. With that being said, as we drink through the world's whiskeys, one glass at a time, cheers.